Okay, hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Richard, I'm our marketing director here at TrueCommerce. We're actually at SKO in Miami today, so we're at sales kickoff. Looking forward to speaking to the whole TrueCommerce organization about how we can, improve, where we are, how do we get better. And I'm actually joined here today by Jacques Vigneault, our SVP of Global Channel. Jacques' an ERP guru. He's been in the industry for years, and he's really an expert on getting the most benefit from ERP integration with EDI for all clients. And yeah, thanks for coming along, Jacques. Really happy to have you on board.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks very much. So yeah, I know this topic's going to be about, ERP. So EDI and ERP go perfect together. They're a perfect match. But when we speak about ERP, what is, can you give the audience like 2 minutes on why they're so important, what they are, what businesses use them for?
Sure. Well, first of all, I don't know that I'm an ERP guru, but having been in the EDI and B2B space for so long, we've had the opportunity to get a front row seat to how ERP has evolved over time, which has been great. So for a question as broad as what is ERP, the way I like to categorize it is it's to optimize everything that happens within the four walls of a business.
Yeah.
And that sentence is going to make a lot more sense when we start talking about EDI, which really focuses on optimizing everything that happens outside the four walls of a business in terms of connecting to a trading partner ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Now, ERP is very broad. When I say within the four walls, it could be, sales, it's obviously purchasing, it's HR, it's accounting, the list goes on and on. There's really no limits to what ERP can help optimize.
Yeah, nice. And when you said the four walls there, are you talking about the business as a whole? Is that a sort of term that you use? Yeah. What are the four walls that you're mentioning?
Yeah, it's a bit of an image, I guess, mostly nowadays when oftentimes there are no four walls. Yeah. But really it means just everything, within a business. And so again, it could be any department, it could be any product, it could be, and again, I use that expression more as it relates to EDI, because really our world is not what goes on, within the business. It's what goes on from a business to another business. It could be a customer, it could be a 3PL, a supplier, it could be a bank, and really that's our expertise, and so that's why I use those expressions. Yeah,
makes sense. You've mentioned then about the link between EDI and ERP. So, at TrueCommerce, we're EDI experts. We connect businesses across the supply chain. We are present across Europe, across North America, and we're a global organization helping trading partners connect to customers, suppliers across any industry, retail, manufacturing, etc. So when you're discussing EDI with your partners and clients and prospects, is EDI and ERP, why do they go so well together? Why is it always such a central theme of pretty much every EDI project that we speak about?
Well, I think obviously if you think of a order to cash process, we'll take that as an example. So it really starts with a customer. So it could be, let's say in our case, we're the supplier. Yeah. Right. And so it starts with the customer sending an order. Now, that order oftentimes will come through an EDI setup. And how do we get that data into the ERP system? So right away, there needs to be a great conversation between EDI and ERP. Mm-hmm. And that's why for us, if we just focused on the EDI component and let the ERP situation just be left aside, we would be missing part of the story. Inversely, I think that ERP providers, if they don't talk about the connectivity and sending and receiving EDI or any other type of format document, I think they're also themselves missing part of the story. So by combining both of them together, now you really have, the whole truth.
Yeah. And, at TrueCommerce, we've got decades of experience handling that integration element between EDI and ERP. And I'm sure you've been part of, hundreds maybe of successful projects. When you're speaking about the integration between the two, is it something that normally happens like at the start of the project, at the end? Like, what's the best way to go about that?
Yeah, I think, ERP is ground zero.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a reason why we as an EDI provider like to partner with ERP companies, is because we understand that oftentimes companies are looking to optimize their business, therefore looking at ERP first. Now, again, I think that if an ERP provider isn't then taking a look at everything else that's needed by their potential customer, then they're missing part of the story. And so in my opinion, the sooner they try to tell that full story, meaning the sooner they can include EDI, then the better off they are as a trusted advisor to that potential company.
Yeah, I agree. And let's say a business goes through that integration project. What benefits are they going to get? You know, what's the ultimate end goal of one of those integration projects?
Yeah, I think you're going to have some technical advantages, right? So that's a bit of a checkbox, right? So it's going to be integrated. So therefore, you're going to be able to automate. You're going to be able to capture certain business rules. So again, so technical. Now, I think the biggest gain. So again, if we take our example of a supplier trying to connect with its largest customers, what you're actually going to benefit from is growth.
Yeah.
You're all of a sudden going to be, your products are easier to order.
Yeah.
You are able to connect with more, if not all the customers in your ecosystem. You're able to sell through different channels, brick and mortar retailers, online retailers, marketplaces. So really, and then the other thing too is now you can really scale. And when you talk about growth, you have to scale.
Yeah.
If you don't have that integration between EDI and ERP, you can't scale.
Yeah.
Right. But now all of a sudden, if you can scale, then there's no limit to your growth. There are other advantages. If you think of the global nature of what's going on today, businesses start up today and right away think that they're global businesses. There's no limits to where you can sell.
Yeah.
And again, if you can actually take your ERP and connect with anybody anywhere in the world, then you've set yourself up for growth globally. And again, that's sort of something that's set up by EDI and ERP being connected.
Yeah, totally. And I guess it's almost like a springboard for success, isn't it? You've mentioned then about, the integration helping you, connect to your customers, your suppliers, helping that order kind of flow operate more seamlessly. But I guess, it's a gateway to scalability, isn't it? You mentioned then about how lots of organizations want to grow. But I guess without that, it's going to be tough, isn't it? It's going to be really tricky.
Absolutely. And it's a gateway to growth. You said it perfectly. You're trying to automate everything. And you're essentially setting up what are the rules for this automation. And you're putting yourself in a position to only intervene if there's a violation of one of those rules. If not, then basically things can just flow. Orders can come in automatically. Based on that, we can send shipping notification to the retailer. You can obviously invoice automatically, which is going to help with cash flow. And so if all that's automated, there's no limit to how many customers you can add.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you take away that automation, you take away that integration, then all of a sudden, every single time you add a new customer, it becomes a bit of a new puzzle. And that's really what we want to avoid.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess removing that, you mentioned then the automation, how critical it is. I guess removing those manual touch points, especially linking back to that growth point that you mentioned before, that's critical. You can't be having lots and lots of manual processes, nuances, and issues in your supply chain if you're looking to achieve that growth. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll give you a very small example, which is that you receive an order and that order is integrated to ERP and there's a mistake in that order. Typically what that would create once it's in the ERP is a phone call potentially or an email or some kind of communication back to the retailer that says, hey, there's a mistake here. Can you resend? If you take that lapse of time between that communication and you expand that over hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of orders, that's a disaster, right? And so what you want to be able, now that's going to happen, but you want to be able to catch that before it actually integrates the ERP. And that's what modern EDI does. Modern EDI basically sets up those rules so that when an order comes in, if it's not flawless, it can be caught, communication back to the retailer can be done, and then it has to be resent, and then when it's clean, it goes into the ERP. Now you've got a clean process that allows for automation, scale, growth, so on, and that's what you want. Yeah,
perfect. And that does seem like a critical piece. Having a partner like TrueCommerce, with decades of experience, relying on trusted and tried processes to really make those systems and services seamless. Like, I guess you want someone that has experienced some challenges, knows how to overcome them and roll that out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it comes down to sort of what is modern EDI, right? And you talked about TrueCommerce's solution. Obviously, those are end-to-end, first of all, right? So you have a lot of EDI solutions out there that are not end-to-end. They may have components of it, integration to the ERP. It could be connecting to the network. It could be bits and pieces, but not the full. So having an end-to-end solution that includes integration, the managed service, the trading partner network, that's key right away. Modern EDI right away assumes cloud EDI, right? So having anything on-premise nowadays, I'll be a bit blunt, makes no sense. Absolutely makes no sense. And but you still have a lot of it out there, depending on where you are in the world. And that's true for ERP as well. We're seeing a massive migration to cloud ERP. And so really sort of honing down on what are the components of a modern EDI solution, just like a modern ERP becomes very important.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you mentioned then. And I guess looking at businesses that are using on-premise solutions across either ERP and EDI, it sort of makes no sense to have one on the cloud and one on-premise, because that's just not how you want to be running your business, is it?
No, it makes absolutely no sense. And as basically, so I understand why businesses have been a bit more reluctant to move ERP to the cloud. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's been around for not as long as cloud EDI, for example. Okay, I get that. But once a business has moved ERP to the cloud, then every other application, including EDI, should be in the cloud as well, right? So maintaining some of that on-premise just really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and touching on that cloud point, TrueCommerce, we have a fully managed cloud-based service in Europe, and it's our clients are happy with it. What are the benefits of that cloud approach when it comes to EDI?
Yeah, I mean, very simply, we are a critical component for our customers.
Yeah.
Okay, so what that means is that if our solutions don't work, then some of the components of the businesses of our customers are just going to shut down, and that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
So what you want is extreme reliability. And when you've got a tier one provider like TrueCommerce, including all the security components and the performance and so on, compared to what a company can do with servers in a closet, for example, right? It just doesn't compare. It just doesn't match. And so, more and more nowadays, the data's critical, the performance is critical, the reliability is critical. We are a necessary component to our customers. And so having that sort of top level cloud solution becomes key, and that's why moving to the cloud nowadays makes a lot of sense. There's been so much forward progress.
Yeah, and you've mentioned some of the tier one services. I guess, especially when you're speaking to larger organizations that are using more enterprise level ERPs, the strength of the EDI service that's combining with that is really important, isn't it?
Absolutely, and the thing we have to remember is that. So at TrueCommerce, for example, we are an SAP partner, a Microsoft partner, an Oracle NetSuite partner, a Sage partner, an Acumatica partner. The list goes on.
Yeah.
These are official partnerships that are contractually, it's contractual agreements. That comes with a lot of obligations. Some are technical, some are, go-to-market specific. But the one thing that's clear is companies with the size and the reputations of the SAPs, the Microsofts, and the Oracles will never partner with an ISV like TrueCommerce that doesn't meet their standards.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we've been obviously recognized and we've been partnered now with these premier publishers for a very long time speaks to our reputation and the strength of our solutions.
Yeah, totally. And, going back to those accreditations, you mentioned, SAP, Microsoft, and a few others. I guess that's a sign of credibility, isn't it? So if an organization is using one of those ERPs, they're going to want to look to it and partner with an EDI provider that can, that has these credentials, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, for them, the choice of an EDI provider like us means that we will, one, help them sell their solutions.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to become an advantage for them when they're selling. And two, and more importantly, once the implementations and the projects get going, we have to be flawless in the implementations. We have to take care of the joint customer. And so when you've been a partner for that long with these publishers, again, it speaks to the success of everything we've done both before the sale and after the sale, and so on. The other thing, too, I would say is that these publishers are global publishers. And they love partnering with global companies as well, because we can accompany them as much in the UK, in the US, and Canada, and Germany. And so they don't have to go around and look for multiple different regional partners. They can actually partner with us across the globe, which is also a big, big advantage for them.
Yeah, and I guess that is really important, isn't it? You know, you've mentioned then where TrueCommerce operate. You know, you've mentioned UK, you mentioned Germany, North America, Canada, all these places. I mean, we're really a global partner that can connect businesses to the trading partners and the customers and the suppliers, no matter where they are, isn't it?
Absolutely. Imagine the advantage of a German business being able to operate with a German TrueCommerce team, but knowing that if their product has a potential to be sold in North America or in the Nordics, that they can also do that with confidence through TrueCommerce, because TrueCommerce will work with them in German, but work with their customers, for example, in Danish.
Yeah.
You know, what an advantage for a company to be able to have that confidence.
Yeah, and you know, almost going back to the accreditations before, but also linking to the point then you've mentioned about, you know, global presence and things like that. I guess, how do TrueCommerce ensure these successful integrations? Is it part of our service? Yeah. What is it that we do that sort of sets us apart?
Yeah, I mean, we've made a commitment to being, as I mentioned before, an end-to-end solution. And so what that means is we need experts every step of the way. So we need to have experts that can contact a American retailer, a Danish retailer, a British retailer, and be able to speak with them on what are the EDI requirements, you know, what's the connectivity method. So we need to have that expertise. We obviously need to have the expertise of a team that's running our managed services solution, being able to track documents, to be responsive, and so on. And then we also need to guarantee the expertise of a local team that can work on the integration of said ERP in the local language and so on. So we're committed to have experts every step of the way to really creating that end-to-end solution, whether it's regional in one country or whether it's global.
Yeah, and you're, you know, as we mentioned, SVP of channel, and then you've mentioned about our strength of having these different components. I guess one thing that's really beneficial is for us to have the end-to-end solution, the relationship with the ERP partners, the global network that's, you know, unlimited, let's say, connectivity. I guess when you combine these things, and I'm sure lots of other things, it becomes a pretty compelling sort of reason, right?
Absolutely. Obviously I'm biased. There's no doubt, but I don't think any other EDI company out there can match what we can offer. So you mentioned the global, very large trading network combined with the global presence, combined with all the certified ERP integrations, combined with this complete managed services, combined with not only EDI, but also e-invoicing, where it's required, so and on and on and on. I could keep going. And when you start fitting all these components together, then all of a sudden you realize that businesses out there that are in our space that have committed to all the things we've committed to become very, very hard to find. And that's one of the major reasons why the SAPs and the Microsofts and the Oracles and the Sages love partnering with us, is because we can offer all of that. And that becomes something their partners can then sell to their customers. Yeah,
I guess it's a knock-on effect, isn't it? You know, we're helping, you know, like I said, your SAPs and your Microsofts, everyone's benefiting from that, isn't it? You know, across the network, there's gains everywhere.
Absolutely.
I actually wanted to link back to something that you mentioned a moment ago. You mentioned e-invoicing. Can you just, what's your thoughts on that? How is that going to play a part, especially as we sort of roll throughout, you know, 2025 further on? There are sort of regulations coming in play that businesses need to, comply with. Yeah, can you give us 2 minutes on that, or
Sure.
your take on how you think that'll go?
Sure. I mean, when you think about EDI in itself, we're sending and receiving electronic documents. We've been doing it forever,
Yeah.
right? E-invoicing is sending an electronic invoice.
Yeah.
The difference is now all of a sudden that invoice isn't going to a retailer, for example. It's going probably to a government entity, okay? Now, that's just a destination change, right? So it really fits really well into what we're doing. The other thing too is the formats are a little bit different, right? But translating to one format or another format, again, it's part of what we do. We've been doing it forever. So adding e-invoicing to our sort of portfolio was a natural progression for us. Now, what we're seeing globally is an unbelievable growth in e-invoicing, and it's very simple why. It gives, obviously, governments visibility into, to be very frank, the amount of revenue that they can gain legally, obviously, from just invoices being sent back and forth between companies. And so to add e-invoicing to what we do was a natural progression for us. It's a growth market, there is no doubt. And then to be able to combine EDI and e-invoicing with one provider, which is actually very hard to find right now, is another massive benefit to our partners.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting and quite a good point you mentioned before. You know, TrueCommerce are an established EDI provider. Like you said, we've been doing it forever. But the introduction of e-invoicing, I said it's not, yes, it's different, but ultimately it's not a huge change, is it?
It's not. It's not. And actually, certain countries have had e-invoicing mandated for a very long time. I think of Denmark, for example, that's been leveraging their specific sort of e-invoicing format for a very long time. But what we're seeing now is more and more countries adopt it because it's been very successful elsewhere. And so we're seeing, obviously, Germany kick off a mandate. We're seeing France will kick in next year. We're seeing Poland should kick in next year. We've seen Spain. We're just seeing more and more countries put in these e-invoicing regulations. So just like we have teams that are at the forefront of what retailers, for example, are asking in terms of EDR requirements, we have teams that are at the forefront of understanding what governments are asking for in terms of e-invoicing. We just want to be a step ahead of the game every single time for our partners and customers.
Yeah, and it's, you know, awesome points. Going back to something that we touched on earlier. We've spoken about, you know, the services we offer. We've spoken about ERP. You know, if someone's going through an ERP migration, so a common theme is that, you know, an organization will come to us and say, I'm using an older version of an ERP. I'm using Microsoft Navision, let's say.
Right.
I'm changing to something new. I'm changing to BC, let's say something like that. Or, you know, they're going through any ERP change, migration or upgrade. What is it that they need to be aware of? And why are TrueCommerce a good partner for them through their EDI, through our integration capabilities? Yeah. Can you set the scene there a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to understand is we, as a business, add a lot of new customers every year. Every single time we add new customers, they're coming from some other solution. Yeah. So anything linked to migration is something we're very used to. It goes back to two, in my opinion, simple things. Having the global network, having the ERP integrations, those two things combined make migrations much easier. Yeah. It's not about establishing new connections to trading partners. We already have those. It's not about developing integrations to ERPs. We already have those. And there's another sort of piece to the element is we've developed tools that we use internally to be able to migrate, you know, from point A to point B. So when you start combining all of those, it gives us almost an unfair advantage when companies are moving from sort of legacy ERPs to modern ERPs, which is there's an amazing amount of movement going on right now to cloud ERP, which is great. Yeah,
for sure. And looking ahead, so you know we've mentioned the cloud ERP. That's certainly going to be something that we see more and more, and cloud EDI and how that relates. What do you think? Have you got any projections for sort of trends that businesses, you know, might see, that we might see in the market, things that businesses need to be aware of that, you know, might crop up in 2025, 2026 as we move forward? Have you got any advice for businesses like that?
Well, I think companies' expectations are going to rise. Right. So now all of a sudden, instead of just offering software, for example, we're all in the service game, right? So our services have to be flawless. We have to be responsive. Our communication has to be flawless. So we have to be concise and to the point. We have to anticipate things before they happen. So we have to monitor proactively. So if something's going to break down, because it will, we aim to find out before our customers do, right? And so these things are going to become part of expectation. Think about yourself, Rick. If you order something on Amazon and you get feedback that you're going to get it in 2 weeks, right? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that was great. Today, that's unacceptable, right? So it's all about speed. And so expectations of customers are just going to keep rising and rising and rising. And the businesses that are going to succeed are the businesses that are going to offer that flawless customer experience. And obviously that's what we aim to do.
Yeah, fantastic. Right, well, thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been an absolute privilege having Jacques on the show. Thanks, Jacques.
Thank you.
And yeah, we've spoken about, ERP today, ERP migrations, how EDI and ERP link together. We're going to have a lot more topics coming up, so certainly tune in and continue tuning in if you've liked what you've seen. And yeah, certainly look at all our future sessions for more information on how TrueCommerce helps businesses connect with their ERP, helps make supply chain communication more seamless, and helps unlock growth, really. So yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you to Jacques.
Thank you.